up, Daniel here today. Today we're gonna be watching scary animations, and I have 3 lives to try not to get, really scared or really creeped out. I'll tell you truthfully if I, get really freaked out. Also, I hope you enjoyed my intro, and I hope you will enjoy my outro. That'll be new. That'll actually happen in my YouTube videos now, if I can get it to work. Because this is before the editing, okay? Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. That goes to my friend's flat.
This incident took place in Dubai when I was 10. I used to go to my friend's apartment to play with him at the time of vacation. One day, as usual, I went to his room to play. After playing for a long time, I went to the bathroom. While I was washing my face off and other things suddenly started to fall down. I was surprised. I thought maybe it was because of wind, but when I checked the surroundings, I found out there wasn't any window in the bathroom. I got out and told my friend the incident. He told me that there's a ghost in his room. I freaked out. At first, I didn't believe him. However, then next his mother and father explained the paranormal activities which had taken place there since they moved into that place. His father was making a burrito in the kitchen one day, and suddenly a call came for him. He kept the burrito on the stove and attended the call. After attending the call, when he came back, he was surprised to find out that the burrito was burning down in flames from the stove. But he said he was definitely sure that he hadn't turned on the stove yet. Another day, while his mother was cooking food, suddenly she felt as if someone was choking her by holding her throat from behind, and she fled out of the kitchen with a scream. The same day, while they were sleeping at night, they heard sounds from the bathroom. And when they checked it out, they found all the things, such as bottles of toilet cleaner and other things, had been scattered inside the bathroom. And that story made me suddenly freeze. This was the exact same incident which occurred to me. They had called some group of ghost hunters and did some sort of rituals and found out that 2 people had been murdered by someone. To know if this was true, they went to the flat owner, and he said just the same thing like the ghost hunters and apologized for giving them this room. They moved out the next day after my visit to their house. Well, to this day, I still wonder what would have happened to me if I had stayed there for some more time.
That wasn't that scary, but I think the scariest part was that ending.
My name is Max. I live in the center of the city now, but a few years back I lived in an old house on a somewhat sketchy street. But that doesn't mean I was poor. The house was ugly from outside, and it was built before World War II, but clean, warm, and cozy inside, although many people died in it there.
Wait, what flag was that?
From outside, and it was built before World War II.
Oh, is that Poland? I think that was
But clean, warm, and cozy inside, although many people died in it there.
Poland. Yeah.
I always believed in ghosts because of all the weird incidents that happened. Like one time, at night, me and my mom were sitting in a room. It was pitch black outside the room we sat in. Suddenly, we heard someone was tripping over, falling in the kitchen. We also heard things like plates fall down and shatter. But when we walked outside...
I actually thought I heard something like a thud. Just gonna close this door. What a coincidence.
Nothing was there. Everything was in its place, and we were so scared about what was going on. A few years
was that a ghost behind me?
Outside,
I'm sorry.
Nothing was there. Everything was in its place, and we were so scared about what was going on.
Oh yeah, you see that?
A few years later,
Behind the mom,
I had a
you can
dream.
rewind the video.
Me and my mom were walking down a path, and suddenly we stopped, and I heard a voice saying, "Bridge." I felt something knocking on my back 3 times, and
bridge?
I woke up scared. Nothing was there, so I didn't think of it that much and went back to sleep. However, after that night, this dream appeared again and again. The voice said various things that I don't remember. And one time, it said something about my mom's death. It always ended with something knocking on my back 3 times. It was creepy. One time, me and my mom sat in a room and talked about ghosts, and I told her about what I'd been dreaming. Mom went silent for a second, and she confided in me that once she was sitting with a friend, and he said something not too nice to her, just for fun. She got angry and screamed, "Shut up," in a male voice. And she didn't remember that. When she described the voice, it reminded me that the voice sounded just like the voice in my dreams. In 2017, she passed away because of cancer. She died in the same room, in the same house where I got those nightmares. After that, I moved out to another place a few years ago. So I don't live in that house anymore. But I still believe in ghosts, that they exist, and they are real.
Are those like the Polish soldiers from back then? Why would Polish soldiers want to harm people? They're Polish. They're not like Germans or even Soviets or Japanese. I don't know. They're Polish.
17. I was flying out to Chicago for a job interview. It was around 11 p.m. and I was sitting in my gate at the San Francisco International Airport. A storm was raging outside.
I've never had any late
rain pouring down the windows as everyone was bundled up on the seats and keeping to themselves. I was just scanning the rows of people in seats sleeping, on laptops or phones, and wearing earbuds before I noticed this one guy. He was sitting in the farthest corner of the gate by the corridor, with no one else sitting around him. He was not on his phone or wearing headphones like everyone else. He has this huge, crooked grin plastered on his face, and he's staring directly at me. He looked pretty average in terms of looks and what he was wearing. But that grin was so creepy, it was beginning to make me shit bricks. Naturally, I turned away and pretended I hadn't seen him. But the fact that he was staring at me made me continuously turn to eye him back without realizing. Eventually, they called our gate and I boarded the plane. I took my seat in the business class right by the window and went on my phone, checking Instagram and texting friends. I did not see the creepy man boarding. An hour later, we were up in the sky. Sometime through the flight, I got up to use the bathroom, and as I was finishing up in there, someone knocked on the door. I called out, "Occupied," but the person continued knocking repeatedly and aggressively. As I was washing my hands, I ignored it, hoping it would go away, but it didn't. So I opened the door to make some ballsy remark, but froze when I saw who was in front of me. It was that guy from the airport, still with that creepy grin plastered on his face. Quickly, I pushed past him and walked to my seat, not glancing behind me. The rest of my flight went normal except for the fact that I couldn't get him off my mind. As soon as we landed in Chicago, I was the first to get my suitcase down from the overhead luggage.
Actually, yeah, speaking of that, I usually sit in like the back rows, and what always confuses me is like, why does it take people so long to get their small suitcases out and just walk? Like, it takes me like over 10 minutes to get out when I'm in like the middle of the plane. It's so stupid and annoying. It's like they have to take their time and just stand there.
And the first off of that airplane. I called an Uber as I walked to the airport parking lot. It was 12 p.m. in Chicago. The Uber came and I drove to my hotel.
Wait. San Francisco to Chicago. She got on that flight, 11 p.m. She was sitting down. She said an hour later she got on the flight and they were flying. And 12 a.m. And then when she got out of the airport in Chicago, it was 12 p.m. So she she had a 12-hour flight from San Francisco to Chicago? That's just really confusing.
And as I checked into my room, I realized something horrible. My wallet was missing.
Oh, good.
I don't know where I could have left it. So I called the airport and asked them to search the plane. They did so and got back to me a few hours later saying they found nothing. I drove back to the airport and spent the whole rest of the day searching and turning up nothing. My only theories
But I don't think
were...
you're allowed to do that because you have to get through like security, the gates, and you need a ticket. So yeah, that's wouldn't happen. But okay.
I had somehow left it at San Francisco, or it had been stolen. I was able to recover and spent 3 more days walletless in Chicago. But you know what? Here's the scary part. When I got back to San Francisco and drove to my house, I discovered something disturbing. My door was unlocked, and my entire house was trashed. Everything had been broken, and anything worth a slight amount of value had been taken. I checked my security footage and was able to identify the intruder as the grinning man from the airport who, sure enough, had my wallet and therefore my keys. I called the police, who found his fingerprints all over my house. The only scary thing was that the prints did not match anyone on record.
Okay, that's him. That's kind of creepy.
The creepy stalker.
Is he like not a human?
On Saturday at 11:30 a.m., I invited my friend Sophia to come to my house, just a general hangout. She came to my house at 12:25 and everything was going normal when we was talking in my room. As we were hungry then, we decided to go out, so we bought some snacks and walked to the park, which is next to the shops. When we about to leave from the park and just walked across the road, I saw a white car. I thought it was passing by, but the car just slowed down next to me and one guy opened the window. He was almost 35 to 40-year-old Pakistani man. He asked me, "Are you okay?" with a perverted grin. Then he said to me, come here, I want to talk to you." And I said no, while looking at the back seat of the car to see if he has anyone with him that will harm us. But luckily, he didn't. The guy said, "Please, I want to talk to you," while he was licking his fingers and staring at me.
If they would say yes,
then he made such a nasty hand gesture. I felt very angry and disgusted. Sophia whispered to me, "Let's go, he's a creep." As me and my friend walked away from the car and went to a different path, which is next to the shops, he followed us and parked next to me again. Then saying, "Why won't you speak to me? Come on, speak to me. Come here, please." Out of anger, I yelled and said, "Leave me alone, you weirdo."
Bro, I would record that.
Then we saw him with a very evil and perverted smile. I grabbed Sophia's arm and ran inside the shop and hiding. I was calling my other friend, Jahim, and told him briefly what's going on. He kept saying, "Call the police," but I thought it would be all right. Few more minutes later, we left the shop and walked on the same path as that was the quickest way to go to my home. We thought everything was okay until she turned around and screamed, "He's following us!" There was the same white car. So scared. My legs were shaking as we ran, and while I was running, I told Jahim on the phone, "He's following us!" and then said, "Go to the spider park." It was a small park that no car can park, as there was houses around and which was right next to my house. I shouted, "Sophia, hide!" She hid behind the wall while I was hiding another place. As a result, the guy was still following but couldn't find us. He was roaming around the area. When he disappeared, we went towards the park from a small gate and finally went back to my place. Once we arrived home, I told my family everything that happened and phoned the police, but the police didn't do anything about it. They just said, "We will use it as intel and update you, but we can't do anything right now," which made us feel so sad. However, The most scary thing came up next by Sophia, who reminded me suddenly about the incident I've told her a week ago. She said, "What if it is the same guy?" I said, "What do you mean?" Then she said, "You know, when you told me about the guy who knocked on your window while you was trying to sleep, my mind froze."
Why should you say when you was trying
She said,
to?
"You know, when you told me about the guy who knocked on your window while you was trying to sleep, my mind froze." It was 3:00 a.m. in the morning. Luckily, I had...
Of course, it's 3 a.m. because every horror story takes place at 3 a.m. Wow. How original.
curtains so he wouldn't see me. But I never forget the moment looking at the end of the curtain where the window was showing clearly and seeing a guy arm knocking on my window. I remember rubbing my eyes to make sure that I wasn't imaging some demons, but no matter how much I rubbed my eyes, the figure of the mysterious guy arm was still there. From that day on, I just stayed in my room feeling very scared for about 2 weeks. What if he was the same guy knocking on my window?
It probably would be. That was a little creepy. And it's a story that happens
When I was
often
7,
in real
I had a
life.
really scary experience.
Wait, what the title said? Something about something to 7.
When I was 7, I had a really scary experience that I will never forget. I got up at 8 a.m., as usual. But as I stood up, I noticed something was different. It was very cold, and I felt like someone was watching me. When I turned to my sister's bed, she woke up.
Yeah, have you ever had that feeling? Like you're just outside or inside, and you just feel like someone's watching you? That rarely happens to me, but it has happened.
And I screamed. 2 heads hovered in the air. One of an older woman with long, dark hair and green eyes. The other of a bald, older man with blue eyes. I screamed again and ran to my mother. I told her what happened and saw some man at the door. I can't recall what he looked like, but I screamed and hugged my mother when I saw him. I was crying at this point, and she looked at me as I pointed to the door, not explaining why. She instantly knew what I was upset about, and she spoke in the direction of the door. I don't know what she said. I was just too scared to listen, and all I wanted was to be somewhere else. Nothing like this happened to me again, until I was 13. I was coming from my friend's house and was really tired. I went to my room, turned the lights off, and went to bed. At 4 a.m., I suddenly woke up without a reason. When I looked at the door, I saw my mother looking at my sister. She had lifeless eyes, which reminded me of the incident that happened when I was 7 years old. The heads had the same lifeless eyes as my mother, except her eyes were red and just looked evil.
Oh no, red.
I knew it wasn't my mom. I hid under the blanket, praying that the thing would just go away.
Oh jeez, yeah. One time when I was like 7, thought I saw something in the hallway, and I just like hid my bed and buried my face in the pillow. That's like...
Looked up, it was still there. I prayed again. Then it vanished. I mean, literally vanished. I saw it with my own eyes. That thing grew fainter and fainter until I couldn't see it anymore. When it was gone, I ran to my parents and explained what happened. They believed me and said that if I couldn't go to sleep, I could watch TV or just stay up. I thanked them and went to the living room. Now, I'm 14, and I talked to my mother about the incident that happened 7 years ago. And when I told her what the heads looked like, she seemed very surprised and confused. When I asked her what was wrong, she told me that the description I gave perfectly matched that of my dead grandparents. I don't know if they were really my grandparents, or who that man on the door was.
Oh, jeez. The Victorian people were in my...
My name is Tade, and this incident happened to me when I was 8 years old. As I was in elementary school, we were learning about the Victorian era in history, which I didn't give a crap about.
So
My history teacher had a Victorian family tree and stuck it on the walls of the classroom. I didn't know why we had to look into somebody's family history. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. When I laughed at it, the history teacher glared at me in the most stern and terrifying way.
Nani?
His veins were poking out of his head, and his hand clenched into a fist and was shaking quiveringly.
He's like,
"What are you laughing at, boy?" he yelled. It was weird. I was too scared to reply, so I said, "Nothing."
Oh, God.
Later that night, when I went to bed, I struggled to get to sleep. I was tossing and turning.
Something is wrong.
A few minutes later,
I swear to God,
I finally drifted off to sleep. But it didn't last a long time. I woke up an hour later.
10 hours.
I was checking my phone to see that it had just passed midnight. Suddenly, I heard a group of people talking outside. I thought it was one of the neighbors, so I headed to my window. When I looked to see what was going on, my heart just dropped.
Okay.
There, in the middle of the garden, were parents who were beating their child with a wooden club.
Oh, jeez.
The parents and the kid were all wearing the Victorian-era style clothes. I was so
imagine that's how they
confused
punish
why they
people,
were here,
their kids
why they were
back then.
beating their child, and why they wore such clothes out of place. Then, all of a sudden, the mother looked up at me. Her eyes glowed red, and she cackled loudly, which made me so terrified.
Like a witch.
Then she pointed at the sky with a finger that was so skinny, and the family faded away. I couldn't sleep at all the whole night, and I thought about the class that I took at school.
Oh my God, you're like...
From that day, I never made fun of any teachers again.
Oh, jeez. Well, that was pretty creepy. Oh, I hear my...
Hi, my name is Shay. Well, at least that's what everyone calls me. About 11 years ago, my mom, my big brother, and I moved from Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee. We were staying with my uncle and his wife and stepkids for a while until we got our own place. About a month later, we found an apartment to stay in. I had a bunch of teddy bears that I really liked between I was 12 going on 13. Well, when we...
I'm doing a video, Mom.
You have a choice. If you want Crocs, the only color they came in. Otherwise, it's these. So much nicer.
Yeah, I'll probably wear that. Выиграли что? А, там никто даже не хотел играть. Okay, sorry about that. Back to the video.
We finished to move our new house. I decorated my room really nice, and I set my teddy bears on my shelf above my bed. A week later, I noticed one of my teddy bears would always go missing, and I would find it under my brother's bed. I thought he was taking my teddy bear just to freak me out, but he really had no idea what I was talking about. It was kind of weird, so I decided to lock all my bears in my closet. They stayed in my closet for 2 days. Everything was fine. That's what I thought until the third day after has been started. The third day, I woke up on a Saturday and my closet door was cracked and my teddy bear was in the same place under my brother's bed. I knew something was wrong. After that, I immediately threw my teddy bears away after that. We stayed in that apartment for a year. After that, we moved. I'll never forget the day of the move. We found bones in the fireplace from a human. Now I'm 23, and I still remember that day, but I always think, what if I set up a video camera to see what was causing my teddy bears to do what they did?
That's creepy. Oh my lord. Why, it's always the ending that's the scariest.
My name is Sam.
Wait, let's look at her face again. Oh my lord. That is pretty damn creepy. My dad's friend lives in a haunted house.
My name is Sam.
Wow, my dad's friend's cousin's
2001. I was 15 and accompanying my...
Да, после видео. После видео. Да я делаю видео. Ты не... Sorry about that. My family members always interrupt my videos.
Dad to visit his friend's new house. My dad's friend, who we call Rick, just moved into this house a few weeks ago. My dad wanted to visit and ask about renovation and decorating the place, as it was pretty old. Well, I'm English, so that means my country is full of old houses, from like the 1500s. Rick had bought an antique castle thing in a forest. I know, pretty creepy, right? Anyway, we arrived, and Rick and his wife invited us in.
Yeah, of course.
My dad and Rick soon went out to the garage to discuss what plans were for that room. I was left alone with Georgina, Rick's wife, and their newborn baby, Rick Jr. Georgina asked me to fetch some formula from the kitchen for little Ricky. Being the good 15-year-old boy, I agreed.
What the hell was that?
Even if the house was home to demons. I went into the kitchen, and the first thing I noticed was a trap door in the corner. Me, being curious, I opened it. A terrible smell filled the kitchen. It smelled like horse manure mixed with puke. Suddenly, a pale hand with long fingers grabbed me. I swore and started hitting the hand. Another hand grabbed my other hand and tried to drag me down. I shouted for my dad. Suddenly, purple eyes appeared from the darkness of the trap door. They stared at me. My dad rushed in, and the hands disappeared. I had scratches on my arm, and so I ran them under some cold water. My dad asked me what had happened. I said there was some demon guy in the cellar. My dad and Rick grabbed flashlights and searched the basement. Nothing was there. Wow. We called the cops who searched the property, and, of course, they found nothing. When I got home, I went straight to my computer. It turns out a man was shot in a hunting accident there, roughly around 1770. But trust me, those hands weren't of a man. Rick still lives there, and over the past 18 years, there have been countless sightings.
Yeah. Oh, it locked?
You can't press this thing.
I didn't. I wasn't even the one that closed it. So I'm trying to make that video.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to put it in some...
I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Bro. Okay.
Weird stuff. I just hope whoever or whatever that thing is goes away.
Yeah, that was not creepy. And that was not scary.
It happened just a few years
after
ago.
this story, we're going to be done.
When I was hanging
basically,
out
I
at my
already
cousin's
won.
apartment, there was a building in front of the living room window. That night, we were having so much fun and having a fun conversation. It was 7 p.m. and we noticed that there was an open curtain in the building just a few feet across from our apartment. I got up in my seat just to take a quick look at that window. I was just curious. Then I saw a woman. At first, I couldn't see her face because her hair was blocking it. Then I told this to my cousin. He was shocked about what I said. He told me to get his binoculars. Then he used them to look.
Oh, jeez.
Suddenly,
you guys ever
he
done
screamed
that?
in fear.
Spied on
I
your
asked him
neighbors?
why. He said, "What the heck is that?" Then I got the binoculars and then I looked. My heart was pounding so hard. I saw a dead woman.
Oh,
Her
crap.
neck was bleeding. Her blood was dripping on her yellow dress, and her body was hanging from the small chandelier.
Jesus Christ. That is crazy.
My cousin has military experience, and he got up the courage to go into that room. Before we went into that room, we told the guard what was there. So we had 2 guards following us, and I told the one guard to follow me to our room so he could see what was in that window, and he was shocked too. He was shocked. He radioed to his fellow guard that was with my cousin, and then we followed them to the next building.
Oh, jeez, the music's tensing up.
We also called the cops. When the police arrived,
Why didn't you just call the cops first?
When we got there, we all turned on the lights, and everything in there was all messed up. We opened the bedroom, and we saw the dead body hanging from the chandelier.
Though? The thing.
2 weeks later, the murderer was caught, and the police gave us a reward for helping to solve a case. However, to this day, I will always remember the horror we experienced.
Oh, jeez. Well, those were kind of scary, I guess. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out. Tee.